Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. I just want to do a couple quick acknowledgements here, maybe three. One, we'll do because of my work in the RCMP, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement of Treaty 6 territory that we're on right now, in the traditional territory of the Métis. I think that's important because a lot of what I learned in Kosovo, I brought into the rest of my career, and I spent a significant amount of my career working on our First Nations, with our First Nations people here. A lot of that information was brought forward. The second one is I want to just acknowledge Bruce Loy, who is an RCMP member. He was first in all three Balkan missions of the civilian police. He's the one that actually should be up here doing the speaking, not me. And I told him to be harsh on me and correct me as I'm going on. Just a little about me. I had 7 years with the Canadian Forces Reserves. My first boss was Lieutenant Sang, who later became Major Sang. So acknowledge him as well, and he mentored me through my military career and then into the RCMP. So that was from 86 to 93. Then I became a regular member of the Mounted Police and posted all over Canada. I think in 28 years I did 13 cost moves, 13 different locations in plus Kosovo. So I got to see Canada coast to coast, which was my goal when I went into the force. And I actually worked with Bruce in Stony Plain. Just a little disclaimer here as well. I'll be speaking. My words are my words, my experiences. They're not the opinions or the views of the United Nations or the OSCE, the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe. So this is me only. If you get mad, don't get mad at them. You can get mad at me. I'm used to that. Just a little brief history in the organization of the Kosovo mission. From March to June 1999, the NATO air mission forced the Yugoslav forces to withdraw, and that was followed up by the ground forces of NATO to move in and provide security for the people in the community. A lot of people have left the country. They've fled to all over the world to seek safety. The NATO ground forces came in and became KFOR, similar to S4, same mission to provide security and safety to the population. The structure within the country followed the basic civil borders of the country, of the regions. So they did five sectors that were broken down and split in between the various NATO contingents. There was the Italian, French, United States, German, British, and then kind of an anomaly off to the side, little asterisk. The Russians had a footprint there as well. I believe, Loy, you can correct me, I think they were at the airport. They took and controlled the airport and really put a wrench into the whole operations of the United Nations and NATO from that forward, doing what they do best. The mission for the United Nations was to rebuild that country because all the Yugoslav infrastructure is all gone. Everyone's pulled out. So specifically what we were focused on was the primary policing responsibilities of the civilian population. This is new to the UN. We did civilian policing since I think the 1960s as civilian police, but this was the first time that we were actually tasked with response policing, 911 policing. You call the police. It wasn't a local policeman that showed up. It was a United Nations International Civilian Police. In addition to that, through the OSCE, the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe, we were tasked with creating the first Kosovo police force, the KPS, Kosovo Police Service. So that was required to be our little chunk of the nation building. Now, the OSCE had a major voice. They set up the training school, and I think, Bruce, you were part of that. and partially funded the new establishment of the KPS. They provided international trainers to the school. And the target to hiring and training is 4,000 KPS members. Significant number. When you look at the RCMP nationwide, 150-year-old police force, we run about 20,000 people, regular members in this country, train around 1,250 a year through our facilities. So this was a very ambitious goal. This was the first time that our police, the UN police, were actually doing the frontline police. One of those tasks was seizing weapons, and this was an armed mission. I think this was the first armed mission, or one of the first, wasn't it? The first armed mission. So we're thinking we're big. We got our 9mm pistols on our belts, and off we're going to go when we're going to go and enforce the laws. I just got there, just deployed to my region in the Northeast in the Italian sector, and we got a call to go and assist the special police in searching a house and picking up some weapons. I thought, okay, great. So I go there, and what do we find in the barn? I think it had to be World War II or post-World War II anti-aircraft gun. So a 20mm, 23mm, whatever it was. So, okay, so now, yeah, my little 9mm on my hip is going to make a big difference in this country when we're seizing weapons like this. So that went on. What I'm going to move into now is the training and the raising of the Kosovo Police Service, the KPS. What we wanted to do is have the democratic principles and human rights, regardless of religion, ethnic background, was the core of what we were doing with our training with the Kosovo Police. And this comes in. From Canada, we don't appreciate it as much as do when you get outside of the country into countries where human rights are different. I'm working with my language assistant and my KPS, Kosovo Police, and my language assistant is telling me he's not telling you the truth. He needs to be beat. You need to beat him. You need to hit him. You need to make him tell you the truth. And I've got to not only train my language assistant, but I got to get this message out to my people that I'm trying to train and bring into this new police force. So it was an experience. I also have to mention a little bit, with a little asterisk here, is another part of the makeup and the organization of this nation building that we were trying to do was the UÇK, the Kosovo Liberation Army. They played a role, kind of behind the scenes role, but they did have significant input as to who we were hiring, or who the OSCE and the United Nations were hiring to become the new National Kosovo Police Service. So in my group of Kosovo police that I was training, the 13 of them, pretty much were all had some level of involvement with the Kosovo Liberation Army. Command structure within the detachments, we were broken down into regions, and from the regions into the towns had their police stations. So we had a station commander, second in command, and then watch commanders, and that was pretty much it for what they had. They had people in charge of various other specialized sections like traffic and investigations. Shifts we ran. UN didn't care about 40-hour work weeks, so you worked 30 days on, 6 days off. The shifts ran, could have been 12 hours, could have been 14 hours, could have been 8 hours. So it was somewhere in there, but you stretched your month out pretty good, and then you had 6 days off to recover. Our living conditions, we were living on the economy, so we had an allowance from the United Nations to find our own rent, to find our own food. We were supposed to be 100% reliable when we were deployed. Some of the challenges, and these challenges are some were pretty big, and I look back with fond memories on some of them. Our communication, both internal and external. We were dealing with post-war infrastructure, so people couldn't just pick up the phone and call the police because there were no phones, there were no phone lines, there were no operators, the whole system was down. A lot of the reporting was face-to-face at the police stations themselves, so we had that to deal with. Internal, UNMIC was an English essential mission, meaning that everyone from police to civilian employees had to be English proficient. Part of that was testing when we first got there. We had to go through language testing, which for English, first English speakers was fine, but I don't know how some people passed on the civilian police side. So that was a very big hurdle to overcome when your partner can barely speak English, write English, so it was difficult. We employed UN language assistants to help with the language barrier between the police and our people we're training, the KPS, so that's Serbian and Albanian, mostly Albanian, as well as the population into the Albanian. Just to throw on top of that, to complicate it, KFOR in the sectors operated in their own languages as well. Our sector happened to be Italian, so when we had to call KFOR for backup or for information or to pass information on, we had to go through another Italian interpreter to get them the proper information at the time. This was the same for the French sector, the German sector, and the Italian sector. In addition to this, there was another level of policing that was provided. It was the special police. Now, special police are like your SWAT teams, your ERT teams, your riot squads. That didn't have to be language specific. They weren't part of the UN mission per se, so they didn't have to speak English. So whenever we had to call these people out, in our particular case, we had the Spanish special police. We needed a Spanish interpreter. So we were interpreters all over the place. Communication breaks down. Very tough to get your message across and receive the information in. Some of the pictures here you can see at the top. That's KFOR, Italian KFOR. This is one of the times where we had to use them to protect a witness of ours who was giving evidence against a local very bad individual. Further down on the picture on the lower right, you can see a gentleman standing there. That's one of my KPS officers with his hands behind his back. Now, to get over the training of this in a different language, I started taking pictures of behaviors that I found concerning. Now, with this particular one, he has his hands behind his back when he's talking to an individual, whether it's a suspect, witness, whatever. His hand should be in front of him. So I don't want to jump in the middle at the time. I've got his Overwatch, so he's safe. But I would take the pictures, get them developed at a local photo lab, bring the picture out, and then we would debrief the next day or 2 days down the road and show the picture. Your hands should be here, they shouldn't be here, and do the whole. So there's a lot of note taking going on my part, a lot of retro learning on his part. So it's what we had. It worked. It tried. It was difficult. Another one of the challenges is our justice and the legal framework. We were dealing with, and Bruce, you can correct me, I think it was one death a day. I think we had one death a day well into the second year of the mission. One death a day, I see either someone died on the highway in a traffic collision, someone was murdered, or there was a suicide, and it was a long way in. So there's a lot of work being generated by the country, and we're trying to deal with the criminal, the criminality of some of these incidents through a system that isn't there anymore. There's no courts. All the judges are gone. All the lawyers are gone. Everything is gone. The buildings are gone. So we're trying to work through. So they were able to scrape enough judges together to get through the most serious of incidents, the murders and that. And because it's a different system than what we have here, they had investigating judges. So the judges would do the investigation or participate in the investigation rather than wait for the police to present evidence. So it was very different for us. No training for us when we go in and we have to learn this on the fly. Like I say, the infrastructure was severely damaged, destroyed. The judicial system was gone. Completely different system from what all the civilian police from around the world were here trying to operate and navigate through this system. It was chaos. Huge policy gaps, not only with the UN but with the KPS as well. Some of the policy gaps, the more serious ones, are the rules of engagement. Now, we're dealing with life and death here, and the United Nations rules of engagement were significantly different on our as trained Canadian police force continuum. Like, you can go right across Canada. Our rules of engagement, our force continuum are pretty similar from city to city, from province to province, coast to coast. Here, not so much. So there were different training standards from the CivPol and their policies. The UN had a very general policy, and it was at times in conflict with what member states, especially on the use of force and arrest procedures. What I really tried to put into my mind, into the minds of the people I was training, was get away from the UN policy. Let's just go to basic human rights policy and basic democratic policing. What's your authorities? What's your authority to stand where you're standing? Search warrants. What's your authority to take or seize property of an individual? And what's your authority to touch an individual, arrest somebody? So if we could just boil those down, and it was a lot of work to try and find the authorities for the Kosovo police to do that. It was a challenge. Some of the successes. One of the problems we had is we got our Kosovo police onto a training program, field training program, but we couldn't get them off it. They had no way to get them out of the mission, so to speak. So at no point were they ever declared, you're trained and ready to go. So we had to devise, my station, we devised a manual and checklist to get them through that. So we did that, and then out of that, we created a KPS sub-office and assigned the zone where that's all they would do. They would be to do the policing only for their own, with no international police. We had international police oversight, but they were responsible for it. And then up into 2008, Kosovo declared their independence, and the policy and policing responsibilities referred to the new government and the KPS. In 2008, KPS evolved into the Kosovo Police, complete with their own specialized units: border investigations, traffic dog, forensics, special police, intelligence, anti-corruption, accountability. And then, I have to put an asterisk where their admission into Interpol. They were technically admitted into Interpol. They passed all the requirements. They received the majority vote of the Interpol members, but the usual characters, for political reasons, blocked their full ascension into Interpol. So they have heavy liaison with Interpol in Kosovo and outside of Kosovo. And that's on the KPS side. On the CivPol side, the CivPol eventually evolved into the United Nations policing, UN UNPOL, which was a good thing because it standardized the uniforms of the members, it standardized the training, and it standardized the procedures. They actually had tighter policies and procedures. So it all evolved, and it is working in a much greater controlled environment. Just a couple of these pictures here. The one up on top left, from being a cadet when I was 13 years old until I got to Kosovo, I never missed a Remembrance Day parade. So the picture on the top left is we put together, myself and a couple of the Canadians put together a November 11th Remembrance Day parade, and we kind of really generalized it. Brought the Kosovo Liberation Army in, brought the United Nations in, even a couple KFOR guys came in, and we did a kind of a remembrance of all soldiers. We did read Flanders Fields as well. That's a picture of my guys up at doing one of our training sessions, and then at the bottom is near the Albanian border. In conclusion, I just want to relay one quick story here. And it was a difficult mission, and as a young constable, 7 years service, I really, my eyes were opened on it, but I held true to what I thought the mission was of democratic policing, and really pounded this into my Kosovo police as I was training them. And I had a nice surprise. My last day of mission was December 23rd, 2000. And I was waiting for my ride to get to the airport down in Skopje, Macedonia. No, we flew out of Pristina. We had the airport back out of Pristina. And one of my guys came up on his own time. He didn't even have a car. I made it down. I lived in a town over. He came, banged on my wall of my compound, and he came in. He was practicing his English. He's not a good English speaker, but he did. And he says, "I want to thank you for the time you spent away from your family and the time you spent with us. And when I first started this job, if I saw a Serb, I would kill him." And okay. And then it said, and after working with you and seeing how the way things are supposed to be done in a proper democracy, I want that for my country. So now, instead of killing a Serb, I would put my life in front of that Serb and protect him from someone trying to do that. So whether he's bullshitting me or not, sorry about the language, I take people at their face value and took them for that. And that was probably one of the best Christmas gifts I think I ever had, and from a Muslim fella to boot. So it was, I really appreciated it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for everyone. Sorry for going over time here. I hope we're okay.